Okay, so we're going to talk about nutrition. And to talk about nutrition, you have to talk about how we measure nutrition. And we can go to the next slide. And so that's calories. And calories are basically just fuel for your body is the way I like to think about it. And in the wintertime, when it's colder, you need to increase the amount of calories you eat so you have more fuel to stay warm, obviously. So you need an extra 500 to 1,000 calories when you're on the winter camp out each day. So that's about 2,500 to 3,000 calories per scalp each day. And obviously you need to stay warm, but also you need to be wearing all those winter clothes, the heavy boots, the jackets, so you can use more energy just walking around. And finally, food affects how people are feeling. So you don't want scouts to be hangry. You want them to be happy when we're camping, so it's important to eat. Next slide. So there's three main types of food that we eat that is absorbable. And there's carbohydrate, fat, and protein. And the carbohydrates can be broken down into two types of carbohydrates. The simple ones, basically the sugar. The more complex ones who have more components to them, fiber, or cellulose associated with the sugar. And we can go on to the next slide. And so, talking about foods, first is carbohydrates. It's about 4 calories a gram. And I like to think of foods as fuel for your body. So this is like starting a fire. There's two types of carbohydrates. Simple, which would be like little kindling, and that would be the simple sugars, the sucrose, the fructose. So that would be like candy, is the main one to think of. White bread or white pasta, they're the simple sugars that are quickly absorbed and quickly utilized. So it's like a quick rush with the simple sugars. The more complex carbohydrates, I think more of like sticks if you're building a fire. And so the sticks are still burned relatively quickly, but they're not as up and down. They're more of a curve, a smoother curve in how your body utilizes the components. And so those would be more like cereals and breads, more complex carbohydrates that are bound to fiber, so it takes longer for your body to break them down, so you're absorbing the carbohydrates over a longer period of time. So you're getting the energy over a longer period of time than the quick candy that gives you a quick burst. So about half of your, let's jump back a second. So about half of what you eat in the winter should be these carbohydrates, and the majority of those should be the complex carbohydrates. Next please. And then the next one is fat. That's twice the amount of calories per gram that carbohydrates have. However, fats take more water and energy to break down so that you can utilize them. So they actually take energy to break them down. Whereas carbohydrates don't take much energy to break down, which is why they're the fast energy for us. And so fats, you can think of like a log when you're building a fire. And fats, of course, are oils, different types of oils, eggs, milk, cheese. Cheese is a good one on winter camp out because it's easy to have little cheese sticks for like a little snack. And next slide. And the last type of digestible food is proteins. And proteins are the least amount, about a fifth of your calories can come from proteins, and they're also considered logs. They also take a long time to break down because it takes a while to break all the different bonds in the proteins. And proteins are very useful for rebuilding muscle and tissues that have been worn down during the day. And so protein in general tends to be for in the evening when you're going to rest and you want to rebuild the tissues that you've used throughout the day. Proteins are an excellent source. And obviously good sources of protein are meat or high proteins like beans, legumes, soy, various nuts. And next slide. Oh yeah, the last thing I wanted to talk about, like I talked about for winter health. The fourth component, it's not really a food group, but it's vitally important, is water. I mean, water is needed to metabolize and absorb all these food that you're eating. So you're going to need more water when you're eating more food. And second of all, winter is very dry. There's not much humidity, so you need to drink a lot of water to stay absorbed so you can stay moist so you don't dry out. We need to replace water lost in respiration and evaporation, perspiration, and excretion. And then last time I was here, I spoke about how many water bottles we need to drink every day. Does anyone remember how many? Okay. 4. 4 fingers, 4 water bottles. Other things that I've been reminded of by various scouters is that you want to keep your water bottle warm because you want to drink stuff that's going to keep your insides warm. And if the water is very icy and cold, it's going to just cool you off when you drink it. You don't want your core temperature to drop. So ways to keep your water bottle warm would be to put a sock around it, put it in your pocket, put a hat around it. And then I was also reminded that if you're going to stick your water bottle in the snow, for whatever reason, turn it upside down. You know, ice forms at a surface. So if there's a surface in the water bottle, it's near the top, and the ice is going to form on the top. And if you flip the bottle upside down, it will form on the bottom of the bottle, and when you turn it up, you'll be able to drink out. And last, cold weather will mask your thirst mechanism. You won't feel like you're thirsty, but you need to drink. So that's why I say 4 water bottles, 4 fingers. Just try to go through your 4 water bottles during the day, so that you're sure to get enough. And now we're into break for carbohydrates. Questions from anyone?
So, guys that are going, are you going to eat as a troop or a patrol? And if so, do you have a menu thought process going yet?
Wouldn't it be more of a patrol to yell, burn certain amounts of calories, differentials?
Yeah, I mean, you want to get it as a group because it's easier to cook. You only have to have 1 stove instead of 5 or 6. So you want to be that way. But you need to be thinking about your calorie count and what you do. Okay? Bill didn't tell you what my favorite breakfast is, and my favorite breakfast.
We'll get to that in the second half.
Oh, in the second half.
The second half, we're going over different meals.
We'll go
and then Tim can tell you his favorite breakfast. If I don't get to it.
Okay, so we'll work on that, and then after Bill gets done, we've got a little bit of gear that I brought. We're going to talk a little bit about the gear, and then we'll conclude. So halfway through, we're ready for
our carbohydrates.
Our carbohydrates.
Okay, here we go. All right, so then we'll talk about 3 meals. There are breakfast, lunch, dinner meals, and different components to them. So breakfast is the most important meal of the day on the winter camp out because you've been sleeping all night and your glucose has been eaten up all night to keep you warm, and so you wake up and your fire is low. And so you need to rebuild that fire, and the best way to do that is with complex carbohydrates, so like a hot cereal, oatmeal, cream of wheat, something along that lines, that'll provide the quick energy, the sticks that won't burn out super fast like the kindling. And so oatmeal is a good choice, and putting something into the oatmeal will help A, make it taste better, and B, also provide additional carbohydrates. So fruits, dried fruits, peanut butter, just get out of the jar, run into the oatmeal and stir it around. Those are also excellent choices. A fruit juice, a real juice, not a sugary juice, but a real juice itself provides vitamins and also extra water that you want, plus some glucose for quick kindling nutrition. And then a couple other things would just be like a wheat bar or a granola bar to provide more complex carbohydrates. And a hot drink, again, when warm from within. So hot cocoa or coffee or tea. Eggnog is a good choice, provides both heat and also fat. And then we move on to lunch. So you've been working all day building your blocks to build your shelters. And lunch you want to have a high complex carbohydrate meal so you can provide energy for the rest of the day. And so suggestion would be like a whole grain cracker like Triscuits, or one of the high whole grain breads like wheat bread or like Dave's Super Bread. And then something to put on the crackers or Triscuits, peanut butter, hummus, jelly, jams. And then again, a hot drink like we had at breakfast, so heat from within. And then also some hot soup or other dish, so beans or like cup noodle, again, something that provides liquid in addition to food to help increase the amount of water you're taking that's warm. Again, a fruit of some kind. I like applesauce as a fruit because it has individual packets, plus you can heat it up. So you can have warm fruit as opposed to cold fruit. You may notice that all the foods I'm talking about, I'm trying to get as many as I can to be warm, so you can stay warm during the camping. Simple desserts like whole grain cookies, fruit bars, granola. And then finally, there's all these extras you can always toss in at any meal: sugar, milk powder, cream powder, salt and pepper, other spices, anything that you can toss into your meal to add flavor so it tastes better, and also add a few extra calories. And then your final meal would be dinner. And so at dinner, you've built your winter shelter, and now you're getting ready to climb into the winter shelter and go to sleep. So dinner is when you want to have the highest amount of protein, because when you sleep overnight is when you rebuild all the muscle that you've used during the day. And so the ideal situation is to have a one-pot meal, I like to call it. So I think of tuna noodle casserole, where you have all three components really in the tuna noodle casserole. You start out with a complex carbohydrate, like some kind of noodles. And then you add a warm sauce, in this case cumin mushroom soup with some milk powder in it to add some fat to it. And then you have a protein, a tuna. But you could make other things, stroganoff, you could have rice and chicken in the sauce, or any combination of three. One big pot with all three components in it. And then it's important to have some vegetables as well for the vitamins. And you could just throw the vegetables in with that one pot as well. And so the vegetables could be just regular vegetables off the store that's been chopped and put in a bag, and you just throw them in. That's the easiest thing to do. You can get dried vegetables and throw them in as well if you're worried about weight. But I find it easier if you're doing winter camping, winter camp out, just get vegetables and chop them up before you go so they're ready to be thrown in. And if you don't want to bother chopping it up, you can buy a bag of frozen stew vegetables and let them defrost and then bring them out there. But don't bring the frozen vegetables there because then you're cooling off your pot. Just let them defrost the day before and then bring them in defrosted. And then of course, crackers again, so you get some more complex carbohydrates to keep you warm overnight. It could be the same crackers as lunch. Or it could be again the high grain bread, the wheat bread. And of course the hot drinks. And dessert, for dinner for dessert, you can get a little more elaborate than at lunch because you don't have to build your shelter, you're already done. And so pudding is a great example for that. You can have the instant pudding just right up, or the instant pudding, you could make it a second pot and actually have it be hot. And a hot pudding is very good for a dessert. And finally, there's some sauces you can put on whatever your dessert is. And that could be as simple as getting a jar or a plastic container of the caramel sauce, like they put on ice cream. And you just put that in a pot of water and let it warm up, so it's a warm caramel. Or you can do it with Hershey's syrup and just put it in, same thing, in a plastic squeeze bottle and put it in the hot water and get it warm, and then just squirt it on top of your pudding or whatever dessert. Yes?
With the lid open.
Yes. That's a good point.
You either open it or it'll open itself.
Boiler, you want to make sure that the item you're heating is vented, or the steam that builds in the item will blow the top off and it'll be a big mess. And then you have to go to sleep in your big mess. So anyway, that's dinner. And extras, of course, same as lunch with the spices, salt and peppers, or sugar. You always put sugar on whatever you're eating. Cinnamon sugar works good in the oatmeal, and some people like it on other things as well. It's another way to get more carbohydrates and more calories. And then next, we want to talk about snacks. You know, to try and eat 3,000 or 3,500 calories a day is very hard. Even high-grade athletes have a hard time eating that many calories. And you need that many calories to avoid being cold and avoid being hangry. So that's where snacks come in. So having snacks around you can snack on during the day every couple of hours while you're drinking your full water bottles will help bring the calories and keep you warm so that you're not hangry. And there's many different types of snacks, but the simplest ones and the easiest to do would be complex carbohydrates, the sticks. And so that would be like dried fruit or gorp, and good old raisins and peanuts. But I went online and I found an article that had 50 different types of gorp that you could make from home. They were all very inexpensive, Cheerios and raisins and peanuts and different types of things. So the gorp is an excellent thing to make at home and bring and have it available. And of course, complex cookies. By complex, I mean ones that have either whole wheat fig bars or multiple oats in them. So anything with oat in it would be a complex cookie. And of course, granola bars or power bars. And I would just say one little caveat on the power bars. You don't want a power bar that's having a lot of protein in it. You want more the ones that have a lot of grains in it. So again, lots of oats of some sort. The protein takes a while to break down. and it uses a lot of water, and you want more of a carbohydrate. It's easier to break down so you can provide steady energy, and you don't want a snack that's going to take a lot of energy to dissolve. And then last slide, I just had a couple of hints from the last time I went winter camping, and I've gone out winter camping numerous times with the scouts and without the scouts. So there are a couple of things. Stop drinking 45 minutes to an hour before you want to go to bed. There's nothing worse than climbing into bed with your dry clothes and an hour later having to get up and put your gear back on again to go to the bathroom because you drank water before you went to bed because you forgot to drink your 4 water bottles, so you finished up your last one right before going to bed. Now stop 45 minutes. It takes about 45 minutes when you drink water before it gets all the way down to your bladder. So you want to stop about 45 minutes to an hour before going to bed. Eating complex carbohydrate before going to bed. You're going to be sitting there for a number of hours. Eating complex carbohydrate will make you feel warmer when you climb into a sleeping bag. Put a hand warmer in the bottom of your sleeping bag. Some of the scouts showed me this, and it was one of the smartest things. I couldn't believe I never thought of it. But just get one of those simple hand warmers and break it, and throw it in your sleeping bag about 15 minutes before you climb in, and then the bottom of your sleeping bag won't be so cold for your feet. Put on dry socks. For that matter, any of your clothing that's wet is just going to make you colder when you're sleeping. So if you have wet clothes, change into dry clothes. And even if you're completely dry, change your socks. Because you're going to sweat through your feet no matter what you're doing, and your socks will be wet. If you put on dry socks when you sleep, your feet will be much warmer. And finally, wear your hat and gloves at all times. And that means even when you're sleeping. Put your hat on your head. Most of your heat is lost through your head. And put the gloves on your hands so your hands are. And next slide. And that's all I have. Any questions? Yes? Oh, so I'm trying to make an analogy between eating and your body and the fuel you need to fire your body and building a fire, like if we were going to build a fire outside when we were camping. And so I'm looking at different types of food and saying whether they're little dinky twigs or small sticks about the size of your finger or logs about this big around. And the analogy is, the little twigs burn very quickly and they're done. The sticks burn relatively quickly, but they provide a little bit of energy, and the logs take longer to burn, longer to get started, and longer to process. And so the sticks are kind of like the ideal quick energy that doesn't disappear right away, and that's the analogy I'm making. We're trying to make complex carbohydrates look like, think about it as sticks when you build a fire. That's it. And it's okay if you didn't get the analogy. Yes.
But like you were saying, is you want to drink four containers of water a day. That's like stopping every hour and taking a good drink and maybe a small stack that keeps that energy level up in the higher range.
Yes.
During your working time.
That's an excellent idea. Is you want to finish your water bottles, so every so often when you get a drink, take a little snack. And your complex carbohydrates or a handful of pork. Think about eating, drinking about every hour throughout the day. So you can get your 4 water bottles done, so you keep your calories up, so you stay warm. Yes?
Your hand warmer idea, our Scoutmaster found out several years ago that if you have one of those Nalgene bottles that seal down really well, not a flip top bottle, but the Nalgene, you got hot water for at night, right, and you pour it into the Nalgene, tighten it down, throw that in the foot of your bed, and it'll stay warm until about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Very good.
It works. The trick is don't pour it in if it is boiling and
right,
really tight. Let it sit there for a little bit, because when it's boiling, you pour it in tight, it'll still steam itself. And
could rupture.
Yeah, Carl Beezer can tell you a story about that. He's not doing this.
And Larry said actually you take it one step further and you throw tea bags in there, then that way you have your caffeinated beverage when you wake up in the morning.
One more thing that's worth talking about, not only is your calorie count, nutrition and everything, but what is your cleanup going to be like? And if you guys know, when you're camping, cleanup is maybe the least fun thing you're going to do. And in wintertime, it can be a pretty miserable job.
Doubly problem.
If you plan a meal that has a lot of gloppy, greasy, cheesy type food and it's cold and your fingers don't work and it's getting dark and you got to clean that up, you're thinking, man, I wish we planned something different. So when you're planning your menus, be sure you're thinking about, okay, how is this going to clean up when we're done? It's worth keeping that in mind.